For centuries, high-quality timekeeping meant delicate, intricate craftsmanship. To tell accurate time, you needed a tiny mechanical engine on your wrist, built with hundreds of microscopic parts. They required precise tolerances, careful maintenance, and deep pockets. If you dropped one, it shattered. But look at the wrists of people operating at the extremes of modern culture. You will find multi-platinum artists performing in front of thousands and military divers conducting underwater recovery missions, all relying on the exact same piece of hardware. Even the most snobbish, high-end horological critics, people who spend their days reviewing five-figure Swiss chronometers, often keep a $50 digital Casio in their collection, and they treat it with the exact same respect. Casio achieved this by decoupling reliability from price. They proved that true durability is a democratic utility, available to everyone. The company didn't start with watches. In the wake of World War II, Tadao Casio and his brothers set up shop in Tokyo. They were engineers focused entirely on practical problem-solving. Their first successful product was a finger-mounted ring pipe called a yubiwa that let Japanese workers smoke scarce cigarettes down to the very end without burning their hands. They took the profits from that smoking accessory and poured them into emerging technology. By 1957, they had developed the world's first all-electric compact calculator. When they finally entered the watch market in 1974 with the Casiotron, they approached the wrist through the lens of a calculator. They built a digital information device with an automatic calendar that never needed to be manually reset. Because the Casio brothers had absolutely zero heritage in traditional Swiss watchmaking, they felt no obligation to follow its rules. They didn't care about gears, mainsprings, or mechanical prestige. By treating the watch strictly as a piece of functional hardware rather than a piece of jewelry, Casio eliminated the mechanical constraints that made traditional watches so fragile. Even digital watches had a major weakness. The tiny electronic components inside were highly sensitive to impact. In 1981, Casio engineer Kikuo Ibe bumped into someone on the sidewalk. A mechanical watch given to him by his father fell from his wrist and shattered on the pavement. He became obsessed with building a watch that could not break. The watch had to survive a 10-meter fall, resist 10 bar of pressure, and run for 10 years. For 2 years, they dropped prototypes from a third-floor bathroom window. Over 200 times, they picked up the pieces, analyzed the failure, and started over. To launch the G-Shock in the United States, Casio ran a commercial showing an ice hockey player taking a slap shot with the watch. The public accused them of false advertising, forcing news outlets to run their own live television tests. The watches survived every time. Casio arrived at an objectively superior engineering solution, specifically because they were willing to destroy hundreds of their own designs to get there. The breakthrough for that design came while eBay was watching a young girl bounce a rubber ball at a playground. He realized that the center of the ball suffered almost no impact. The internal components of the watch needed to be suspended rather than rigidly attached. This led to the floating module architecture. The quartz movement sits in a hollow structure, cradled in shock-absorbent gel behind 5 distinct protective layers. A protruding bezel extends past the glass screen, ensuring the crystal never makes direct contact with a flat surface. Instead of brittle metals, the case itself was formed from a hybrid of uridane resin and steel, designed to actively deform and absorb kinetic energy. They achieved indestructibility by completely isolating the timekeeping brain from the physical violence of the outside world. That engineering approach trickled down to the rest of their lineup. In 1989, Casio introduced the F91W. It featured a stopwatch, an alarm, and a battery rated to last for 7 years. This chart shows the sheer scale of the watch's adoption. By 2011, Casio was producing 3 million units of this single model every year. Traditional luxury brands measure their annual production in the tens of thousands. Casio measures theirs in the millions. They applied the same logic to analog diving watches. For roughly $50, the Casio Duro offers 200 meters of water resistance, a screw-down caseback, and a sunburst dial finish that rivals entry-level luxury pieces. Casio took specifications that used to require a massive financial investment and turned into a global, accessible commodity. But Casio also builds high-end products, and they do it at a mother factory in Yamagata, Japan. Inside, human technicians in protective clean suits work alongside advanced robotics to assemble the brand's premium models entirely in-house. These premium models use a system called Tough Solar. Tiny panels built directly into the face of the watch convert sunlight or even ambient indoor light into electrical energy, effectively eliminating the need for battery replacements. They also incorporate multiband 6 technology. The watch contains a miniature antenna that receives low-frequency radio signals from 6 atomic clock towers spread across North America, Europe, and Asia. It pings these towers automatically to synchronize its timekeeping. A mechanical watch costing tens of thousands of dollars will still lose several seconds a day to gravity and friction. A radio-controlled Casio will lose about 1 second every 100,000 years. This zero-compromise approach led to specialized tools like the Master of G series. Models like the Mudman were engineered with dust and mud-resistant structures, quickly making them standard-issue gear for military units and frontline professionals working in the most hostile environments on Earth. Casio proved that the value of a timepiece doesn't have to be defined by its exclusivity. They stripped away the pretense and turned the watch into a badge of readiness and utility. The industry spent centuries telling us that the best watches were delicate, expensive, and reserved for the elite. Casio showed the world that a $50 piece of resin and quartz could be more accurate, more durable, and far more honest than any heirloom.